If anybody's online waiting for us to start, we're waiting for you to come. We've been here since 7:15. It's just me and Uncle Megdi. Please come if you're looking online and just checking to see if we've started. The answer is no, because there's nobody here. Please come. Tommy wants me to say that he's also here, but he doesn't count. do the songs?
No, I haven't started looking. I actually booked this. You can just play it on Spotify or something.
No, I've got like a space. Yeah, come to the guys. Come close. Come. I don't know. I don't think anybody else is coming. So come closer. Just come. I don't think anybody else is coming. Don't leave room for more people. Like there's nobody else coming.
Thank God.
What's this? What am I doing with this? Okay. All right. Do you guys know this song?
Yes. No.
All right. It's pretty easy if you can pick it up. Light of the world, you step down into darkness. Open my eyes, let me see. Beauty that made this heart adore you. Hope of a life spent with you. Here I am to worship. Here I am to bow down. Here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. King of all days, oh so highly exalted, glorious in heaven above. Humbly you came to the earth you created, all for love's sake became poor. Here I am to worship, here I am to bow down, here I am to say that you're my God. You're altogether lovely, altogether worthy, altogether wonderful to me. If you guys see something you like, tell me. Oh, what, really? You guys know this one? Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because He's given Jesus Christ, His Son. Give thanks with a grateful heart. Give thanks to the Holy One. Give thanks because He's given Jesus Christ, His Son. And now let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich, because of what the Lord has done for us. And now let the weak say, I am strong. Let the poor say, I am rich, because of what the Lord has done for us. Give thanks. You want to sing? We can sing O Holy Night. Holy night. You guys know this one? My Jesus, my Savior, there is none like you. All of my days I want to praise the wonders of your mighty love. My comfort, my shelter, tower of refuge and strength. Let every breath, all that I am, never cease to worship you. Shout to the Lord, all the earth, let us sing. Power and majesty, praise to the King. Mountains bow down and the seas will roar at the sound of your name. I sing for joy at the works of your hands. Forever I love you, forever I'll stand. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you. Anything? Classic. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I love to sing your praises. I'm so glad you're in my life. I'm so glad you came to save us. You came from heaven to earth to show the way. From the earth to the cross, my debt to pay. From the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky, Lord, I lift your name on high. Yeah, it's all like the ADD version. It's like, you can't handle the whole song. That's enough. That's good. Next song, next song, next song. I'm not skipping. It's the that's all. And it even tells you end. Like, it doesn't let you have the. It's like, don't even think about singing it again. It's the end. It's the end. Oh yeah, no, the anthem. No, it's got the whole anthem is there, of course. Oh, this is a good one. From the beginning, we see the end. End. The. No, there's definitely more. There's like 3 verses. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. When I feel afraid and I think I've lost my way, still you're there right beside me. Nothing will I fear as long as you are near. Please be near me to the end. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. You're the light unto my path. Yeah, I'm stalling. Just start? Okay. Listen, I was here at 7:15. I'm ready. I'm good. Okay. I'll just take 15, 20 minutes or so to pull up the PowerPoint from there. Adjust the microphone. Tick, 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 tick. Okay, guys. So, I was asked today to talk about in-laws or outlaws. My father-in-law, Uncle Magdi's here. I told him, what's that, Giddu? So I told Uncle Magdi I'm going to put his name on the invitation. And if he came, I would obviously defer to him if he wanted to say anything. And he said, no, I don't want to say anything. And I said, if you don't come, then I'm going to say, something about you not being there. So I think the only reason he's here is he'd rather at least be here for whatever I'm going to say. So at least he can object to it and he can stand up. So the structure for tonight is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you're not familiar with this movie, it's from 60s, 70s, something like that. From our time, right, Giddo? Uncle Magdi says it's from our time. So the movie is like a classic Wild Wild West movie. So every time we have like a new character, I want everybody to do like the theme song with me to introduce the new character. Do you guys remember the theme song? Doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. Okay, so that's going to be one of the interactive things that we're going to do. Every time we see a new slide and we see one of the new characters, I want everybody to chime in and go, what? Doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. Okay, so let's practice, okay? 1, 2, 3. Doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. Okay, you guys are ready for it? Okay. You good? Doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. Speaking of outlaws, Mark just walked in. So the first thing that we're going to talk about before we get into like the challenges and it's so hard and my brother-in-law walks in late for the talk and I'm so mad and all this stuff. Yeah, hi, love you. Before we get into like the challenges of dealing with in-laws, I want us to focus on the good first, because hopefully there's a lot more good than there is challenges, and we just notice the challenges more. So let's focus on the good, because when it's good, it's good. So a lot of this is going to be interactive, and we don't have a huge group, which is great, so we can sort of keep it amongst us. And we can keep it like as a group discussion. If you guys prefer, if you guys feel more comfortable, we can do sort of like pairs and groups of 3. It's totally up to you guys. But the first thing is, I want us to discuss the good things. So let's start by turning to the person next to you. If you're not sitting next to someone, Luca's available, and he can be your partner. And you can talk to Luca or whoever is next to you. And I want you to share what your favorite thing is about your in-laws. I'll give you an example. My favorite thing about my in-laws is that they tolerate me. And that's my favorite thing. That's like the highest thing, is that I found a family that says, you know what, like, we're not going to kick him out and we're going to let him come to stuff, and there's no restraining orders or anything like that. So turn to the person next to you and talk about what your favorite thing is. Okay, so we can ask Tommy to stop corrupting my child, and we can start sharing about what our favorite thing is. So, who wants to share? All the later stuff when we talk about the challenges is all going to be hypothetical. Nobody's going to share about themselves. It's about their friend. But now we can talk about like the actual positives about our family. So who has something? Okay, here actually. She's not. Okay. So I'll repeat. Your sister-in-law. She's. What about your son-in-law? Is he nice and quiet? I think that's a hint. She said, my sister-in-law is nice and quiet. Your daughter's husband. So is your daughter's husband nice and quiet also? She's not answering. She's asking Magdi. Nice. What else? What else did you guys come up with for things that you love?
I said that I love that your mom loves our kids.
My mom loves our kids, and Mary loves that. That's awesome. Anyone that's not related to me? Yes, Martina.
I said that I love that they, even before we were engaged or anything, just made me feel like an instant member of the family from the very beginning.
That's awesome. So I'm going to repeat what Martina said. Martina said before they were even engaged, Tommy's parents made Martina feel like one of the family, and his sister made Martina feel like she was one of the family. We're going to come back to that. That's a really important point. What else? Anyway, there's nothing here. There's nothing good to say. It's a tragedy. Kullu.
I said that Martina's parents are quite lively. They make it fun to be part of.
Martina's parents are fun and lively.
They make you feel
And you like that. You like that.
I like that. It's not so formal.
It's not so formal. Okay. Anyone else? That's good. That's good. Yeah, hers is definitely like. Derek, anything? I know you have nothing to say about John, but maybe Sherry or Tina. I guess Sherry's not really. Yeah. They what? They have big hearts. Good. Anybody else? Okay. So when we come up with things that we like about our in-laws, a lot of times we come up with similarities. So Tommy mentioned, that they're fun. So Tommy's fun. So they're fun too. So the fact that we're similar sometimes to the in-laws is actually a point of good. Understanding, right? So maybe they're a little bit different, but at least we understand how they are. Okay, I might be not quiet, but my parents-in-law understand I'm not quiet, and that's okay most of the time. Except when I call at 9:30 at night and I start making jokes and Ton tells me to cut to the chase. And we call those boundaries, right? So it's 9:30 at night, I'm calling and I'm like making jokes and she's like, Mina, what do you want? Right? So if we're similar, that's good. If we're different but we understand each other, that's good. If we're not similar, we don't understand each other, but we know where to draw the line and say, okay, I don't get this, I'm not like this, but I know where to draw the line and you know where to draw the line. We're just going to be different and we know where to, keep the boundaries, then we don't run into trouble. So now the bad, okay? So we would love for everything to always be good, right? We'd love to focus on the good and similarities, and we're similar and we understand each other, and when we don't, we keep boundaries. It doesn't always happen that way. So the next thing I want us to discuss is when things go badly. And this is a quote from my mom. This is one of my favorite things that my mom has ever said. She says, nobody ever got married wanting to make themselves miserable, right? So when we see people unhappy in their marriage, unhappy with their in-laws, God forbid, when you have separations, divorce, things like that, that wasn't where they started, right? They fell in love, and it's going to be different, and we're going to love each other, and then how did we get where we are, right? So if we can trace that path back and figure out how we got there, right, then we can say, okay, well, where did this problem come from? And if we know where the problem came from, then maybe we can address it. So the next thing I want us to discuss is, what are some issues that have come up? And again, this is completely hypothetical, like you heard about a friend of a friend, like their neighbor and the guy who works with them. They had a problem with their in-laws, not you, right? So this story about somebody else completely, what the problem was and what the root of the problem was. So if you guys can discuss amongst yourselves and then share about your friend. Tell me.
I should know this one, but that were just so no boundaries and with like, any parent wants to protect their daughter. So my parent, I go to my parents, they're not, for whatever the situation is, so you know your my situation a lot better. So, but I didn't think it was parents' fault. They allowed it.
Guys, while we're doing this discussion point, it reminded me that maybe some of these issues are sensitive and we don't want to like raise our hands and say something out loud. So we're going to pass around a piece of paper. So if you can write down on the piece of paper any questions that you have, and if you don't feel comfortable sharing challenges that your neighbor had with their in-laws, you can write down the challenges so that we can discuss them. Okay, so this is when we're going to start getting to the meat of it. There's more papers. Hmm. So the three papers I got are all mixed up. So I don't know any of the three. Um, okay. So anybody want to share out loud? Anybody want to raise their hand and talk about something? Anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's something I've heard from like several different people, or just stories you hear about,
Mhm.
but just the concept of an over-involved.
Yeah, and I think that is a very, very, very common thing, is the over-involved. And one of the reasons that I can give this talk, and it's really easy for me, is that my parents-in-law are actually awesome about that. They're very helpful when we need them, but I can have them in the room and talk about over-involved in-laws, and it's kind of like, okay, we don't have that problem, which is great, thank God. So the cards I'm getting are along those lines, and the things that I identified ahead of time and I put on the slides are about these boundaries. And again, we started with it's nice if we're similar, like they're fun, I'm fun. It's nice if, well, they're not really the same, like I'm quiet, they're not, but we understand each other, right? But at least we should have boundaries. And when the boundaries break down, that's when we start to have issues. So I like to raise my kids a certain way. I like to give them a little bit of space, and you're on top of the kid all the time. I like to go on vacation on the beach, and you want to, I don't know, do something different, and you bought everybody tickets, right? And now everybody has to go to this specific thing that you want to do that nobody else wants to do, right? We can all think of examples of either stuff in our lives or something in someone else's life where it falls into this boundaries and the in-laws interjecting and saying, well, this is the way that we do it. And ultimately, it's a failure to see the other person's perspective, right? You say, my way is the right way, and you might think that this is okay, but this is the way that we've always done things. This is the way that we do it in our family. And this brings us to key point number 1, which is perspective is critical, right? So we all grew up with a family that was either Egyptian or not, Christian or not. We're marrying someone who is either Egyptian or not, Christian or not. And we're bringing our baggage, and they're bringing their baggage. They're bringing their perspective, we're bringing our perspective. So if you look at this a picture, what do you guys see? Who can describe those tiles for me? There's a black tile and a white tile, right? So this is clearly black and white, right? This is, as they say, the most clear-cut thing in the world, right? And when we are discussing where we're going to have Christmas, it's black and white. What we do on Thanksgiving and what we eat on Thanksgiving, it's black and white. Whether the kids should be punished this way or punished that way, it's black and white, right? And we're all convinced. So I didn't do anything to the picture. The only thing I did was I added a cover to the middle, okay? And to prove that to you, even if I do it with my arm, at this, it does the same thing. I haven't changed the picture at all. Yeah, it's crazy. So one of my favorite things is cultural perspective. And I don't just mean cultural like Egyptian American. I mean cultural like our family's culture or my culture, right? Each one of us has a way of seeing the world. I see it this way. My family sees it this way. I have an entire country of people that see it the same way I do. But all of this is a matter of perspective. And if you grew up a certain way and you always see something, then you look at this and you say, this is black and white. I don't see what the issue here is. But what we have to realize is that sometimes, just like this optical illusion is designed to show us that maybe there's gray where we think it's black and white, in these situations, the rules that we have set up for ourselves are a matter of our experience and a matter of our perspective. And if we can change our perspective just a little bit and be able to see it from the other person's perspective just one time, then from now on we're going to look at the same situation and we don't look at this anymore and we say, oh, this is black and white, right? Once you've seen the illusion, you look at this and you say, okay, I know for a fact that this is the same color on top and on the bottom. And I can put my hand up, I can go back in the slides, I can do whatever I want to keep proving that to myself, but I have proven to myself already that this is an illusion. And we have to learn to do the same thing with our families and with our in-laws. And when we see something a certain way and we're convinced that it's this way, the only thing that we need to do is see it differently one time, and then we say, oh, I need to take a step back here. And the next time I see this, and my gut reaction is, oh, the problem here is because this person's like this and this person's like that, and we can extrapolate this away from in-laws to anybody that we deal with. And if we can see their perspective, even just one time, then in the future it makes us more able to step back and see that optical illusion, see that illusion that we created for ourselves that makes them completely wrong, makes us completely right, and allows both of us to say, okay, maybe we're getting fooled a little bit here. So let's look at this again in that context. So go back to that challenging thing which happened with a friend of a friend and would never happen in your family, right? But discuss and say, where is this person coming from, right? When they are interfering, what would they call it, right? When you see it as black and white, and you see there's no way that any rational person would call this anything other than interfering, ask yourself, okay, let's take a step back. What's their perspective? What do they call it? Is there gray where we think it's black and white? So go ahead and discuss that. And keep passing forward your questions if there's any. Okay, guys, what did you come up with? I know this is hard. I know this is hard. We can turn the mic off. Yes, yes. I don't. Maybe. Assume yes. Uh-huh. Okay, good. Anything else? Anybody else? So what are some of the things that we discussed? What are some of the things we came up with? Let me ask you something. Just a general question, not specifics. Is this easy or hard to do? This is hard to do, right? Why? What makes it hard to do to this? What's that? Say what you said again. Say what you said again. Huh. Okay. I want you to say that one more time. I want you to say it one more time. So the answer was, and I want us to really listen to this, because your own perspective on the matter is right. Okay? I'm going to go back. So, is this black or white? Okay. So your perspective on this matter was that they were two different colors, right? They were two different colors, one that was dark gray and one that was light gray. We agree on this? Right. So Federico was wrong because he said black and white. But you were less wrong, right? I mean, he was really wrong because he said black and white. But you were less wrong because you said it was gray and a lighter shade of gray. Again, it's critical, right? It's critical for us to look at this and understand that the way that the human brain works is based on our experience. And our experience will always drive our perception, right? So if I've always seen someone with a tattoo on TV committing a crime, then I see somebody in real life with a tattoo, what are they going to do? Obviously, they're going to commit a crime. Like, you know, it's not my first time watching TV. Like, it's that tattoo crimes, like, you know, it's very obvious, right? And our experience, right, how we've always seen the world, drives our perception. So everything that we've always seen in our entire lives drives not just our opinions, but even just the information coming in. So just like our experience in life with light and shadows and, you know, not following into a ditch, and when we're driving the car, if there's a bridge, that we don't interpret the shadow from the bridge as a ditch and we're going to fall into it, but okay, like, you know, it's fine, I can keep driving, it's just the shadow from the bridge, it's not a big deal. Drives us to misinterpret this optical illusion. The same thing happens when we make those judgments, right? Oh, it's because they are so blank, 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 right? And there's no way for us to see it any other way other than to say it's dark gray and light gray. Forget black and white, right? And it's the same thing with our in-laws and people that we interact with that see things from different perspectives, right? It's hard for us to see it any other way. And I love the way that Derek said it because it's honest. Our perspective is right. So it's hard to see it. But again, we have to repent from that and we have to step back and ask ourselves, what makes our perspective right? Right? The reason our perspective is right is what? It's our perspective. Right? So if everybody just went on the same assumption that, okay, I mean, it must be right because it's my perspective, and we never step out of that box to ask, hold on, what makes it right? Right? What makes it objectively right? What are they seeing that I'm not seeing? Or are they seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, but just looking at it differently? And when we're not able to do that, that's when doo-doo-doo, you guys didn't do a good job on that one. Let's try one more time. 1, 2, 3. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. You know, your kids do the same thing in class. Like I tell them to do something and they don't. So everybody, 1, 2, 3. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Still got nothing. All right. So, things get ugly, right? Things get ugly when it's not good, right? We said the good is when we're similar, when at least we understand each other, when we set good boundaries, right? It gets bad when we don't do those things and we break boundaries and there's discomfort and, you know, there's my way and then there's their way and we're not getting along, right? What's that? Right. Right. My way or the highway, right? So that's when we get in trouble. And when we can't step out of that, that's when things get ugly. So key point number 2. We hear people say, they made me upset. Right? That's a thing, right? It's not my fault, they made me upset. What's the problem with that? Who gives them that control? You do, right? And this is true at work. This is true with our kids. This is true with your spouse. Not me, definitely, because I never do anything to upset you. You remember that? Can I tell the story about one? So I was annoying Mary, and she was telling me, "You're so annoying. Like, stop annoying me." And I was like, "That's not nice for you to say that I'm annoying." She goes, "Well, I'm annoying too sometimes." I said, "No, you're not annoying. You're never annoying. You're perfect in every way." And she goes, "Oh yeah." So she spends the next 10 minutes like on purpose trying to annoy me. I'm like, "Okay, you're right. You win." So with anybody in the world, right, we choose whether or not to let them bother us, right? We choose whether or not to let them upset us, okay? We have the option to say, you can do anything that you want, right? And no matter what you do, right? Like homeboy over here decides he wants to roll around the ground and scream in Target because, Luca, what do you want from Target? Smiles? You want smiles? Chips? You want chips? All right, so he decides he wants chips, and we're not leaving Target until he gets chips. He can roll around on the ground, and everybody can see him screaming, and okay, well, I'm just going to wait here till you're done. If I let him upset me, that's not on him, that's on me, right? So it's the same with the in-laws. They're insisting on this thing and that thing and the other thing, and like if we don't do it this way, then, you know, it's going to be World War III. Okay. I'm choosing that this thing that we're arguing about is more important than my sanity. If you want to choose that, you're welcome to, right? If you want to choose that, you're welcome to. But really, I want you to step back and ask yourself, is this because you're right or because you've been pre-programmed that this thing is important, right? Question. They don't have to be right for you to let them have their way and for them not to upset you. So in an objective reality, right, you might be the one seeing the the optical illusion for what it is, right? Like, let's say for whatever reason, right, you and 100 others, right? There's 101 people in the family, you and 99 other people agree completely that this person's insane. Fine. Now what? Now what? We have to ask ourselves, am I willing to let this person upset me or not? And it's a balancing act between what things are things that we can kind of let go and like not make a big deal about, and things where we say, I'm so sorry. I respect your perspective and your opinion, but you can set boundaries as well, right? And you can set boundaries without getting upset. You can allow for a concession to be made, right? Where you decide, okay, like if I really needed to, right? If, we want to make crawfish for Thanksgiving, we usually make turkey. No, we have to make crawfish. Okay, well, I have two options here. I can dig my heels in and insist on the turkey, try to find the compromise between turkey and crawfish, or maybe I don't really care that much, right? It's not really a matter of principle, and I go, okay, crawfish, sounds good. So either way, you can decide whether or not to set that boundary, right? And you can always choose not to be upset. You can always choose that. You don't have to let them have their way. You can kind of insist, no, sorry, I'm going to set this boundary and I'm the one making this decision and this is what we're going to do. And with parenting issues and with things that happen in my house, this is how it's going to be. And if you don't like it, with all respect, I love you. If I come to your house, I'm going to do what you say. When you come to my house, this is how it's going to be, with all respect. But I don't have to get upset, right? When we let ourselves get upset, we can't blame the other person, okay? So let's keep this one as an open thing. So instead of keeping on doing the back and forth, what do I do when I'm being sucked into another argument and I feel myself getting upset? Because that's going to happen, right? I'm going to decide, okay, no matter what this person does, right? That happened to me at work this morning. I said, okay, I'm going to smile. I don't care what happens. I'm going to smile and I'm going to get through the day. And this individual, I don't know if they woke up this morning and decided, you know what, let's see what I can do here. And they were a person on a mission to make sure that whatever it is that I thought I wanted to get through the day and keep a good attitude, that it wasn't going to happen. Okay? So we face challenges. So even if we decide ahead of time that we're not going to be upset, we're still met with that challenge. Then what? Hypothetically.
Hypothetically speaking, after 5 days or after 1 month, I know a friend, so after one, like, everyone knows their what level they can, so you need to figure out, because there's stuff that you can do once you feel like the argument is there, but to prevent the argument from happening,
right.
You need to figure out, like, your boundaries.
Right. So I like the word limits that you said, because boundaries are kind of for the other person, and limits are kind of for yourself. Right? So boundaries for the other person. I'm sorry, this is the line I don't want you to cross. That person goes, now what? Oh yeah, it's usually me, and it's usually me doing it on purpose. But if the person decides they're going to cross a boundary, right? Either because they don't know any better or because they decide to, whatever it is, they cross that boundary. You can set a limit for yourself and say, okay, this is my emergency escape, right? If they do this, this is how I'm going to get out of the situation, right? And I know that these are the buttons that they can stomp on all day and push, and I've already made it clear that these are boundaries, but they're going to break these boundaries, right? But there's these 3 buttons over here. I don't want to tell you what they are. I don't want to tell them what they are. But if these buttons get pushed, I'm going to fake smile, and I'm going to walk, and I'm going to nod, and I'm going to walk away, and that's going to be the end of the conversation. Because my other option is for me to get upset, and I don't want to get upset, right? So you can set boundaries for them and limits for yourself. So here's the reality. I'll quote my mom again. Nobody ever got married intending to make themselves miserable. Okay? You're going to have in-laws. Okay? They're coming. They're getting in the car. They're going to be at your house. You're going to be at their house. Okay? This is a reality. Okay? And unlike other realities, we can't really escape. Right? Because if it's somebody at work, then you just walk away and that's the end of the story. Right? If it's a friend that you're having irreconcilable differences, as they say, with, okay, well, you're just not friends anymore. In-laws are going to be there at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, at Easter. They're going to be there. You can't escape that reality. And some of the dangerous things that you can do to try to escape that reality are try to get between the spouse and the in-laws, right? That's dangerous, right? Well, they upset me so much that you shouldn't see them either. That's dangerous, right? Well, if they don't know how to treat the kids, then they can't see the kids, using the kids as a reward or punishment tool, right? That's dangerous, right? And we can make a list of dangerous things that we do to escape this reality, right? And if we sit and we think, and if we leave here today and we try to be honest with ourselves, most of what we try to do with not just challenges with our in-laws, but challenges in general, is try to escape that reality. And we, with the college students and the high school kids and the young adults, we try to focus on substance abuse as being an escape of reality. Right? There's nothing inherently beneficial in cigarettes or alcohol or drugs or sleeping around or doing any of these things. It's an escape. I don't like my reality. I'm going to find an alternate reality. Right? Instead of dealing with the situation that I'm in, I'm going to get rid of this situation in any way, shape, or form. And the way that we do that with in-laws is very clever sometimes. Oh, well, we're going to get them a apartment on the other side of the country. We're going to really encourage Florida, right? They're not really doing a great job taking care of themselves. There's a very nice home for them, right? If these things are really done for their benefit, great. Some people choose that. I can't wait to go to Florida. There's like an island, apparently, that you can't get to except by boat, and there's not any cars allowed there, and you just drive golf carts around it. I can't wait till my kids go, okay, Dad, we're tired of you. You need to get out of here. I'm going to say, great. It's awesome. I'm out of here. And I'm going to go find that little island that Mary's parents' neighbors live at, right? But we have to really ask, are we getting rid of the parents-in-law or in-laws for their benefit? Or for our benefit, right? And escaping that reality is a dangerous thing. So if we're not going to escape, then we're going to find ourselves in tension, right? And Dr. Mamalakis, who spoke a couple of weeks ago, has a classic line that tension naturally exists. Right? So there's tension between friends, there's tension between spouses, there's tension between in-laws, there's tension between coworkers. There's always tension. But the question is, what do we do about that tension? Right? And that tension is something that we try to escape. Right? And the question that he asks is the tension a good thing or a bad thing? What do you guys think? Neither. Or both. Right? It's neither or both. Right? And I put the icon of Christ on the cross Because if we ask the same thing about Christ's tension, right? Was the cross a good thing or a bad thing? It used to be a bad thing, but now it's a good thing, right? So, is the cross good or bad? So it was good for Christ that it was fun for him, but it was good for us. So is the cross a good thing or a bad thing? Neither or both. Depends on the. So the cross for Christ, was it good or bad? But it's good for us. So asking the question, is the tension good or bad, tries to simplify something that's not simple, right? The cross is not good or bad. It's good and bad, right? It was bad, right? He suffered, clearly bad, but how much good came of it, right? So all of us face a tension, right? And that tension, we can either treat it like a problem to be solved, in which case we try to escape, we try to fix, and some of these things aren't fixable and not escapable. Or we can just recognize them as the reality of our situation. Oh, sorry, I'm going in the wrong direction. So the final thing is, the last discussion I want us to have together is, now that we look from this perspective of, okay, I walked in here thinking, okay, there's some good things and some bad things, and Mina's going to tell me about how to fix all the bad things. Well, some things aren't going to be fixed. Yes, maybe we can learn about some strategies about setting boundaries for them and limits for ourselves. But first of all, that's not going to happen overnight, right? And even when we spend the whole weekend, she doesn't think much of what I'm saying. The good, right? The only thing that I know is that I hear this during the sermons on Sunday. So if the priests are going to get it, we should get it too. It's equal opportunity. So, yes, we can employ some strategies about setting boundaries for our in-laws and some limits for ourselves, and maybe we can get better at it, and maybe our relationship will improve. But unfortunately, maybe it won't, right? Maybe the relationship with our in-laws will not improve. And just like everything else in our lives, that may or may not get better, right? I'm stuck in this job, I'm stuck in this house, I'm stuck with this. Okay, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to try to escape the tension? Are you going to solve a problem that's not solvable, and in so doing try to create more problems? So I want us to discuss maybe some of the issues that we've discussed before and say, okay, how do I use this tension as something that I can provide for myself as a way of growing, as a way of being a better person myself, as a way of participating with Christ in his suffering, right? If I'm dealing with a very difficult person, and I remember the difficult people that Christ dealt with, then that lets me participate with Christ in his suffering. And if the only thing that we take away today is that in-laws are a wonderful way of helping us to participate with Christ, then we would consider that as a big plus. So let's talk amongst ourselves. Okay, guys, let's do our wrap up. Hopefully this discussion keeps going. We don't necessarily need to share with this part. I can tell you from my standpoint, the first time I heard Dr. Mamalakis talk about the idea of tension not being a problem, it was very liberating. And if anybody's read his parenting book, Parenting Towards the Kingdom, a lot of the parenting ideas focus on that, but you can extrapolate from what he says about parenting to lots of other things in our lives where our immediate reaction is, okay, this kid's misbehaving, how do I fix this? And he encourages us not to try to fix the kid's behavior, but try to understand the kid's behavior, understand the kid's perspective. Why is the kid behaving this way? If we understood the kid's perspective, why he's behaving this way, then maybe we can just meet them where they are and say, I too know what it is that is making you upset. And if I know what's making you upset, then instead of you just being upset by yourself and rolling around the ground and being upset and being mad, let's be upset together. And you entering into the tension with the kid and you accepting the fact that they're upset and taking it upon yourself is exactly what Christ did. Right? He entered into our tension. He didn't escape. He didn't try to say, oh, well, let me fix all your problems. No, he entered into our tension. So hopefully it's something that we can take away, both in dealing with our in-laws and in dealing with challenges in our lives, that we can be more comfortable with that tension, that it's not something to be solved, but just a reality. They're going to be there. In-laws are going to be there. So whatever you guys discuss now, if somebody wants to share, feel free by all means, but I don't necessarily expect you to say, oh yeah, well I realized it's all my fault and blah, 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 blah. It's something that hopefully we can sit with and process on our own. Good, do you want to answer the questions with me? So jump in. The question is, when you have a problem issue with in-laws, do you involve your spouse or not? So I'm assuming like this is, you have a problem with your spouse's, relatives. Do you address it with the in-laws, or do you address it through the spouse and ask the spouse to address it? Hypothetically. Okay.
One person. Family.
Can I,
Can you say? The thing, I guess I'm representing the in-laws. So I'm the minority here.
And I'm the outlaw.
Not outlaws, no. But when you have your daughter getting married, and she could be not taken, but united with a person we don't know anything about, for us is a stranger. So the care is, or the anxiety for the in-law, who's going to be in-law, is my daughter going to be happy with this person or not? Is they gonna, if they are both very good, but they're going to match, or you're not going to match? So you try to rule out the negatives, and hopefully you make a good decision. Now, I never had in-laws, so when I became the in-law, it was something new to me. But I took it out when my son got married. It almost the same or the same when my daughter got married, and it became instantly my son. I looked at you, like look at Mark. There's no difference. Which I tolerated from you, I tolerate from him. And the other thing is, advice and decision. When you make a decision, you come ask me for advice. When usually you think you're right. If I think you're wrong, I take the decision itself. Is it going to be disaster, or going to be listen to learn? If we're going to be listen to learn, I think I'll tell you my opinion and take it or leave it. If I think it's going to be a disaster for a decision you made, whether it's money, different, anything, I will try to make a more resistance, looking for more experience. But if not, or let him learn from his mistake like I did. No in-laws to advise me, but we made the decision together. And it's different when you talk to in-law. When you talk to wife, it's a little different. So that is my opinion, and it went out fine. But I looked at you as a son. This is, I think, in-laws should do that, not argue, and it's definitely let them learn from their mistake if we're going to mistake, which is no disaster. And that's what, thank God you didn't do anything bad.
Not yet. I still have time, Giddo. One thing that I want to point out comes across in what Uncle is saying is that his parenting style is coming across in how he treats me, right? So you guys heard him say, oh, I just treat him like Mark, so, unless he's going to do something that's a complete disaster, I'm just going to let him go, right? Which is kind of the same way I am, so I appreciate that, right? So now, what if he were different, right? What if he were helicopter parent like, are you sure you want to put 325 for the tip instead of 327? Okay, Giddo, I'll put 327, whatever you want, Giddo. And the next time, weren't you supposed to make a left instead of a right here? Oh, okay, sure, Giddo. Right? And then, the kids wearing mismatched shoes or mismatched socks. What's wrong with this kid? Why is he wearing mismatched shoes? I'm sorry, Giddo, that's what the kid likes to do. I don't know about these kids these days, if this is how you want to raise them, right? So Uncle Magdi's parenting style is coming across not just in how he treats his kids, it's how he treats me. And again, that's great for me. But not everybody, again, is this lucky to have a father-in-law that treats them with the same parenting style that they want to be treated with, right? So we have to be thoughtful about that, and we have to recognize that maybe we should be thoughtful about the other person. And if the other person is in a place where they're able to change their perspective and see it from our perspective, then thank God, that's great. It's a blessing when we are dealing with people that are able to do that. But if they're not able to do that, and instead of having Uncle Magdi, I have a micromanaging father-in-law that tells me what to tip at the restaurant, okay, I can't change that, right? And it's an opportunity for me to see things from Christ's perspective with the... what happened to the card? Because there was another question. And in terms of dealing with the in-laws, I think it's a case-by-case basis. It depends on the relationship. If like, for example, I had an issue with one of Mary's brothers, I'm just going to go talk to them, right? But if it's like a cousin that like I don't really talk to very much, and I don't even know what, like I'm not at the point, this is going to change obviously immediately as soon as I say this out loud. Like I don't even know what would upset me enough that I would actually go to Mary and say like this needs to be addressed. But if that were to hypothetically happen, if I'm going to create more of the problem by trying to address it myself, then I'm just going to go through her, she's going to go through her dad is going to, like, it's going to be like this whole, so I'm going to be very, very selective about what's going to be the trigger for needing to have something addressed. But if something needs to be addressed, I have a good enough relationship with them, of course I'm just going to do it myself. But if not, then you have to be thoughtful about the positives and negatives between, is this really worth it, or is this something that, again, I can set a boundary, but know that they're going to step over the boundary, and I need to set a limit for myself that, okay, I'm just going to accept whatever this is, or I'm going to just say, okay, I need to escape hatch. The other thing is, if something bothers you, how do you share with spouse without hurting them or putting them in the middle? I don't know. This is tough. This is a tough one.
Because I think
Mary, you want to answer this one?
have an answer. I think I'm going to answer.
Abuna, if you can chime in, repeat the question. So I have no expertise in this question, so I'm the last person to answer this. The question is, if something bothers you, how do you share it with your spouse without hurting them or putting them in the middle? From my standpoint, I have no feelings, so you can tell me anything. You can say, whatever, you need to fix this, and I say, okay, sure, no problem. The only person that actually bothers me is Tommy. Everybody else is unsuccessful at getting under my skin. So unless you're Tommy, it's really hard to bother me. So Mary's more.
I don't know if I have an answer, but I think for the most part, if something is bothering you about the in-laws, I think if you get to the root of it, it also bothers your spouse. Or I think that for us, we've kind of figured that out, but it's taken time. So, if there's, I don't have a good example, but if something that my in-law did bothered me, it's a struggle because for me to go to my spouse and be like, oh my God, this happened, I think for them, they've been dealing with it their whole lives. And either they've normalized it and have just dealt with it, or they haven't gotten to a point in their life where they're like, oh, that bothers me too. So I don't know what the right answer is because, again, like the previous question, I think it might be a case-by-case basis. You know your spouse well. You know that if you go to them with this sensitive topic, it might upset them. But for our experience, I think that it's generally been, they're aware of it. Like it's not news when I go to Mina and I say this is an issue that's going on. It's not like, he'll be like, yeah, I've known her my whole life. Like I know this is going on. So that's my 2 cents.
We're so happy to have you on. So that's how I see it. And it's really a style and a life that a husband and a wife share together. It's not a one scenario and it's not one situation. It's really how we talk with one another. Because I can be talking about something that's really bothering me at work and how my wife is going to absorb and help and take care of me. And it's the same thing if I am having a hard time with my, wife as parents or my husband as parents, it's how I'm going to receive that. So it shouldn't be the attack to the person because I cannot talk to the parents. And it shouldn't be that I want a solution. It should be like, let's vent, and is it a solvable problem or it's a characteristic problem? Because if it's character, it's part of the gene and the DNA, and how I cannot change a child under 18 years old or an adolescent under 18 years old. It's very hard to change people, very, very hard. How am I going to expect to change someone who's 65 or 7 years old? I mean, they grow. So we need to really think about why we're addressing it. Are we venting? Are we trying to hear a validation? Are we just thinking out loud how to approach things differently? Maybe we can have a different reaction. So it's a lifestyle, and I think it's really not the in-laws, it's about everything that we deal with each other as a couple. That's really the most important thing.
But I do think, at least for me personally, it helps when I know that my spouse gets it. Whether or not they agree or disagree, or if they're like,
Validation, the validation. That's a
see the in-law doing that, they're like, oh, I know that bothers me, right? Like, maybe I'll try to intervene, maybe I'll give her some space. I think that communication is important. Like,
It is important, but not necessarily it's going like validation to how you feel doesn't mean that I agree with why you feel the way you're feeling. So it's like the speaker listeners technique, like you tell me something, I say, okay, so what you're saying is that. And then I try to think more about it. I says, I can imagine why you would feel that upset. But that doesn't mean necessarily that I'm agreeing with how you feel. And is it maybe because I grow up with that style? It's actually copied in me. I see a lot of it in me. And sometimes I feel a little offended to protect my, But that's why I go back to how we deal with each other during stress. Whether it's the validation or the fixing or approaching it differently or whatever it is, we can deal with it together. We can do it together. But it's the together. It's what makes the difference. But we don't talk. Yes, Dina. Go ahead.
I don't know
Yes.
If something is going to happen or if you need to make something, I always say when dealing with Abuna at any other time, I don't like to use the word always and never. Like, you always do this or you never do this. Your mom always does this. And every single time she comes, she, puts the dishes the way that I don't like it. And every single time she comes to visit, then the kids, have so much candy. Because, you can't use absolutes. And so those are my biggest things, like not using absolutes. And when you approach your spouse about something that bothers you that his or her parents did, just try to be as non-judgmental as possible.
Yes. And you have to also, we all have to remember that when we share space with one another, we have to leave room for the other person. So if I invite my in-laws, I'm leaving enough room for them to be their own in my house. They cannot just come and be me. Like I cannot have a list at the door. And when you enter my house, that's how you do business. Especially if they help me. I mean, if my in-laws coming to help me with the kids, and then I start having a big list of complaints about why did she do that with, yes, we can give a little bit hints here and there, but we cannot just kind of like nimsik ba, like how dare you? I mean, we're letting two totally different people than us and our styles come and help us. So it shouldn't be extremes. It's a sharing space. It's having being a buffer zone kind of, that you allow this to happen. And if you train yourself not to be insulted or hurt or wounded, and I think it goes back to how you feel inside about who you are and why you do things a certain way, then I think you should be fine. You should be fine. And if it's a problem with the in-laws, it's going to be a problem with your wife, your husband, your kids, your boss, everywhere. I really think it's a personal characteristics. It's just how I deal with anybody but me. And if I'm able to deal with people, I think I can deal more. But I think the extra sensitivity that Dina and Mary are talking about, when I talk to my wife and say, your parents, I don't want the insult tone to be part of that. I want the venting tone. I want to be validated. And maybe sometimes it's nice to start by saying, I know you're not going to be able to fix anything, and maybe you're not going to say anything, but I want to let you know why I'm bothered. We're not going to fix anything tonight. And yeah, exactly. Yes. So I don't want to hijack the question, but more?
You just reminded me of something that I wasn't sure if I was going to mention, but since you mentioned the opposite of it, I'm going to confess that this makes me not a nice person. But the mirror image of what Abuna just said about you have to be looking at yourself and saying, okay, if I have this issue with my in-laws, am I having the same issue with my job? Am I having the same issue with my spouse? Am I having the same issue with my friends? Sometimes, and again, I'm not saying this is a good thing, I'm saying this is a confession. If I see somebody that I find challenging, having the same issue with someone else, that makes me happy. And I told Abuna this between me and him, but they used to do public confessions in the early church, so we're not breaking any kind of canon. Me sharing with you guys what I shared with Abuna. If I was a good person, then I wouldn't be happy that this person was facing trouble. But if this is, someone that always steps on my foot, and I say, I've set this boundary, I've asked you not to step on my foot, and now I've set a limit for myself that when you step on my foot, I'm just going to smile and say, okay, I understand what it is that you're struggling with, that you have to step on my foot. But if they step on someone else's foot and that person blows up at them, I'm happy, right? I'm looking at that and saying, I'm really glad that they finally got yelled at for stepping on people's feet. And I hope they stop stepping on people's feet now that they've gotten yelled at. But again, that is an indication that I have some repenting to do myself, right? So we have to be honest with ourselves. First, are we the person stepping on the feet, right? Are we constantly getting into the same issues with everyone? And I'm not saying it's okay that I do that. I'm saying that's something that I have to work on, and hopefully I'm the only one that does that. But if there's someone else in the room that does it, then hopefully we can mutually recognize that in ourselves, that when someone bothers us, we secretly are happy when they are bothered by something else, by somebody else is bothered by them. So that's not necessarily a good thing, and maybe those people are the ones that we need to love the most and reach out to the most. So if we have in-laws like that it seems like everybody in the family has an issue with, I'm not saying I do this. I'm not saying I do this, but we should be the ones to be the example. Anything else? Any other questions? Tommy, any more questions on the back of the card? No? We're good? Anything else? Abun, anything? Any final thoughts? Abun, Giddo?
I just want to thank Doctor. I just want to thank Uncle and Tant for joining us today. It's really, it's great that you were able to join us. God bless you. And I want to thank Mina and Mary for preparing for this, and also for them leading this meeting and really putting a lot of effort into it. May God reward them. We haven't decided the next one, but it will be, we're not going to miss any months, hopefully. We'll try not to miss, but we want you to spread the words and encourage people to join, because it's really, it's a lot of effort behind the scene, and we want as many people to get the info and to help one another. So, should we pray and then pick and then pick first? Okay, Luke, it's your birthday? Oh, pray first. Okay, so let's pray for Luca, wait a second. We'll pray first. Okay. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Ameen. We thank you, our dear Lord, for this gathering. We thank you that we always gather in your name, under your wings. Keep us always, Lord, protected under those wings, and help us always be supported through the work of your Holy Spirit. We ask you to bless every couple who's standing before you today, their kids, their in-laws, their works, and every couple who couldn't make it today. We ask you to bless them and bring them next time we gather in your name. Through the intercession of Saint Mary, Saint Mark, and all your saints, and Saint Flobatir, Mercurius, and all your saints, hear us when we say thankfully, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. Through Christ Jesus our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory forever. In the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Okay, Luca, come on. Every couple is named. You all here? So we only gonna let people who haven't won previously.
What is this? 5-year-old soccer?
Can you read?
He's going to say that.
I prayed for you.
Tommy and Martina?
Yes,
Is it?
I
Thank you.
did. Tommy and Martina.
Are you sure it doesn't say that? Let me see. Are you just getting this? Or you feel bad?
In church.
Keep it in the box for the memory.
You're supposed to give it to Martina if she really wants. So he's cheating?
Well,
Taking
we're
matters
happy
to his own.
that you won, and you really wanted this, so I'll give it to you.
Yes, we still need to take care of it.
And you could use this.
Still want to be eligible for the grand prize.
What's a grand prize?
The grand prize is a trip.
Yeah, okay, that's good. No, we want we want a big crowd, but still the people who attended the movie. Okay, Now love God the Father, the grace of the Holy Spirit, and the Lord and Jesus Christ, the communion of the Holy Spirit, be with you. Go in peace and peace be with you. Safe ride home. It's really low hard when I came, so be careful. This is number 5. Mary, this is number 5.
I think so, yeah. I think so. So there's five.
So you're
Thank you.